So last week, as Chris mentioned, he said he was going to be out this week having back surgery, and that didn't actually wind up happening. And I was like, as he was announcing it, I was like just hoping he wouldn't say, and Bear will be up here next week, because I wanted to make sure people actually showed up. So it's good to see that there's some people here. I'm going to pray in a minute, so if you are going to sneak out, just wait till then, because otherwise it's rude. And I see that we also got the 4th and 5th graders in here kind of padding the numbers for me, so that's pretty sweet. Seat fillers. So as Chris mentioned, my name's Bear. I usually don't say my last name. For some reason, I feel like I mispronounce it somehow, because people are always like, what? And so like one time I went to get a name tag somewhere, like this laminated thing I was going to be wearing at like this conference, and I get it back and it says Bear Cahill. And I was like, so my name's Cahill now? No, it's Cahill. So I don't know if I'm saying that wrong. I don't know what you're hearing. It sounds fine to me, but most people just don't get it right. Well, you may not have known that I was going to be up here this week teaching, but I think the devil knew. So like Wednesday, well, I got like a letter from the IRS saying, you owe us money from past years, and I'm like, it's cool. And then the check engine light comes on in the car, and my wife goes to follow our son in the van to take the shot. She walks in the room literally, and she goes, oh, that's right, you're teaching this week. The van won't start either. And I'm like, mm-hmm. So we're like trying to get multiple cars fixed. One of them's over here at Christian Brothers. And so he was on my back a little bit. So I'm going to start off this week with a little bit of a laugh. So last Saturday, I got this meme from somebody, and I'll show the top of it first. It's a math test, and it says, Bob has 36 candy bars. He eats 29. What does he have now? And the next slide, diabetes. So I don't know if you know Wilford Brimley, but that's kind of what he got known for. He was an actor. He was in Cocoon and stuff like that, but he did a lot of infomercials and stuff on diabetes. And so he kind of got known for that. So I got that last week, and we had a lot of fun watching videos on him pronouncing diabetes. Okay, so now we're going to start the sad part of the show. About a month ago, I'm a freelance software developer, and about a month ago, I got a call. I teach through education companies, so companies come to them, and then if they want iOS development, iPhone development, then I'll go out and do it or do it virtually. And I've taught a lot of courses at Intuit, the tax software company, and we had a call with them. They wanted to do an advanced course, which I hadn't taught before, so I had to develop material. And we're talking through what we'd want in there, and in my wisdom, I said, yeah, I can do that in like 2 weeks. Yeah, let me just throw that together. And then further in wisdom, I decided to wait a week to start preparing for this course. Actually, I was trying to clear off my schedule. But it was too soon. It was too aggressive. I wasn't wise in that decision. It was too much to try to learn and build the course and be able to teach it. And so every day I would start on the next section, and I would feel like, oh, to teach this, I got to learn this, and to learn this, I got to understand this. And at the end of the day, I'm somehow farther behind, and I'm spending like 10, 12 hours a day on this, and then homeschooling after that, and just not feeling good about it at all. It was too much to do. I wasn't feeling confident in it, and there's no way that I would be able to go into teaching this and say things from experience. I want to be able to teach something and say, oh, well, I normally do this, or in this situation before I've done this, and I only had like this week to prepare all this information. I was familiar with it, but I didn't have experience in it. And so you can't get years or even months of experience in 1 week. 9 women can't have a baby in 1 month. It just doesn't work. And so I'm trying to figure out, how do I approach this and have confidence, but also be upfront with them, to be like, hey, I just developed this material. I'm not the best expert on this, and try to balance this. And I'm just marching towards this thing of not being prepared, not feeling confident, not looking forward to it, just dreading this class. But I know at a certain time and place, I'm going to start this thing. It's going to start at a certain time on a certain day, and I'm marching towards this thing, and I'm just dreading it. And I'm not sleeping well. I'm not eating well. I lost 8 pounds in 1 week. I found a few of them, but I was a wreck. And through those things, I'm getting more and more emotional about it. I went up a level in my reading glasses. My eyes were just worn out the whole time. And I'm neglecting other things. I'm not doing a good job at anything. And it'd be kind of like for some people maybe coming up here and doing this. You know it's going to happen. You know there's a set time. And for some people, that would be something they would really dread, and it's coming. And every day it gets closer and closer. So it's easy for me to come up here because as far as like nervousness, because I know I'm in a room of friends who already know to not expect much. But I wanted out of this class. I'm walking around in my yard, and I'm like, if I fell right here, I could break my leg. Is my throat? I'm feeling a little sick. I don't know if I can teach next week. But I knew that if I went to them and told them I wasn't ready, or if I did get sick, we would just postpone it, and I would just have more time to dread it and worry about it. And I would tell them I'm not confident, so then they would have reason to maybe not give me more courses or something. So I decided, last-ditch effort. This is my only thing I've got left. I'm going to pray. This guy, yep, I'm an elder here, that's right. So I decided to pray, and I'm thinking, I just want God to cancel this thing. Somehow, He can do it. He's a big God. He can cancel this class. I know He can do it. And so I'm praying, and then I check email, and it's still not canceled, so I pray some more. And I'm like, God, dude, I teed it up, man. This is the only way out. I know it. Just cancel it. Figure out a way to cancel it. I don't want to get anybody hurt, but I really want out of this. And I watched, after the course, when I had a little time, I watched this documentary called Dying Laughing, and it's about comedians, and there's these different sections, and they talk about how they got their big break, and they have a section on hecklers, and then they start talking about this section on bombing, and it was rough. I mean, they talk about how it's personal, you just feel so rejected. And there's this one comedian talking about bombing in a show, and he's talking about this, and his tears just start rolling down his face, talking about just being booed off the stage. And he was just so emotional. You could just tell it just hurt him. And at the end of the story, and he said, you know what? There was a second show that night. I had to go back out there in like 2 hours and do it again. And I was like, buddy, I know how you feel. I get it. Just dreading that thing, but knowing you've got to show up and do it, and just feeling like it's going to be a train wreck. Now, the whole time I'm thinking, God uses all things. Romans 8:28 is true. God uses all things for good. And I was staking that claim. I was like, I believe that, God, but get me out of it anyway. Maybe you used it to make me believe something, and now I believe it, so we're good. You just cancel this class. And meanwhile, my wife is working on our son on his Bible memory verse, which happens to be Romans 8:28. So I just hear these words coming up from downstairs, like God's going to use this, and I'm like, I'm sure He's going to use it, but I want out. So yeah, it was pretty miserable, and I knew that if God could cancel it, or when it was over, I knew He'd get me through it, and I knew that once the class is over, the minute that class is over, when I end that Zoom call, it was just going to be like, and colors would be brighter, and food would taste better, and I would grow a few inches, and my hair would be thicker, and these would just shoot off, like, you don't need those anymore. And I was right, except for the glasses and the hair. And food did taste better. I ate a lot after that. But I just didn't want to walk through it in that time. Like, I knew He would get me through it. And I knew after the hours, when that time ended, just as much as it would begin, it would end. So the conclusion of this is that I'm a big baby. It's no surprise, and I thought this was a big deal. But meanwhile, Drew over there was in a coma with like brain bleeding and broken bones and fighting for his life, and I'm like, but I gotta talk to people and get paid. I got to teach a class online and sit in my chair. It's like, I got real problems. And it's just like, oh my gosh, I'm such a big baby. I wanted to be like Hannah. I started thinking about prayers of the Bible, and I wanted to be like Hannah, who prayed to God about wanting a son, and then was able to, as it says, went on her way and ate, and her face was no longer sad. That's how I wanted to be. I wanted that kind of a reassurance that not only would God get me through this and use this, but that I can lay it at his feet and he would take over, and be confident and trusting him in that. And I wasn't. So then I made a big mistake. Then I decided, well, if praying for it to be canceled isn't working, I'm going to pray for God to increase my faith. We know how he does that, right? Oh, man. I just felt like God was up there, and he's like, wait, what? Oh, let me push this po' boy aside. Angels, you're going to want to see this. This guy asked for faith. That's going to put on a show. And I was, oh, boy. But what I really felt like he was saying was, yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm increasing your faith. This is how I do that. And the whole time I was kind of like, yeah, I guess I knew that, but I was hoping maybe it would just be like instant and we'd be cool. No. But I wanted the course to go well, and I was really worried about the course, and my measurements for success were off. I wasn't measuring my success in walking with God. My eyes were down here looking at this course and being just completely eat up by this thing, as opposed to being excited to see how God was going to use it. And I love how he used it. I don't want to do it again, but I do appreciate how he used this thing. And I understand, I had, in a sense, a measure of success where I did pray. That was good. I didn't get angry at God. I didn't try to bargain with God or do anything drastic or, in a sense, disrespectful to him. But I really wish I could have trusted him through this thing. And I'm human, I'm not perfect. So I can give myself some grace, although I don't want to use that excuse, for everything. And I did grow, and I realized I need to handle my time better and schedule better and be realistic in expectations and prioritize my time better and think through things better. But I really want to increase my trust in him. So along with that, I also thought of Abraham's prayer in Genesis 18, and that's kind of what I want to talk about today. So starting in verse 16, there's a portion of him talking to God. But just before that, it's Abraham, and he's in his tent, and three men walk up, and it's the Lord and two angels. And they come up to him, and they hang out, and they have a meal, and they rest. And Abraham, who God's been telling for years and years that you were going to be the father of nations, you were going to be the father of innumerable children and descendants. And he doesn't have any kids, and now he's 99 years old, and he still doesn't have any kids, and he's tried his nephew Lot and this heir and a son with Hagar. He's tried all these things in his own might and his own ideas, but that's not what God said. And now he finally comes to him. They have this meal, and he says, okay, this is it. We're marking the calendar. A year from now, you're going to have the son. That's when it's starting. And that had to be just incredible news for him and for Sarah to think that finally God is not just telling us it's going to happen. He's actually now setting a time for that. So this is after that, starting in verse 16. Then the men rose up from there and looked down towards Sodom. And Abraham was walking with them to send them off. And the Lord said, shall I hide from Abraham what I'm about to do? So Abraham just had this great news, this great meal. He's got to feel like this is an incredibly great day. All good news, everything's going wonderful. He's going to have that son, and God has this conversation with himself to think, should I tell Abraham what I'm about to do? He's going to be the father of this nation. He can be in the know, and he can tell others and teach others about this. So I love how God initiates this conversation, kind of like he does with us, with revelation through creation, through others, through his word, that he's seeking this out, that he wants us to talk to him. So in verse 20 it says, and the Lord said, the outcry of Sodom and Gomorrah is indeed great, and their sin is exceedingly grave. I will go down now and see whether they have done entirely as the outcry which has come to me indicates, and if not, I will know. So he kind of basically sounds like he's saying, I'm going to go check it out. And again, Abraham, he was on cloud nine, and he's thinking, wait, we're not going to talk about the baby shower? We're talking about Sodom and Gomorrah's sin. We're talking about pimps and brothels. We're talking about negative stuff. Like, I was really excited about this, and now we're talking about Sodom and Gomorrah. And he continues, then the men turned away from there and went toward Sodom, while Abraham was still standing before the Lord. And Abraham approached and said, will you indeed sweep away the righteous with the wicked? Now, God as far as the text goes, didn't necessarily say he was going to wipe it out, but Abraham probably assumed that's what happens. That's typically what happens when God comes face to face with sin and corruption like this. And he was right. As we know, he does end up destroying Sodom and Gomorrah, but he goes to him and he asks this, and continuing in verse 24, he says, "Suppose there are 50 righteous people within the city. Will you indeed sweep it away and not spare the place for the sake of the 50 righteous who are in it? Far be it from you to do such a thing, to kill the righteous with the wicked, so that the righteous and the wicked are treated alike. Far be it from you. Shall not the judge of all the earth deal justly?" So he's appealing to his justice and, in a sense, his mercy. He's calling him the judge of all the earth. So he approaches him humbly. He's praying humbly to the Lord, but also he's asking him about his justice and will he do what he says he does. So Abraham prays humbly, appealing to this and with respect. He's also not bargaining with the Lord. He's not saying, if you just get me through this, I'll do better, or I'm sure they'll be better, or anything like that. He knows he's got nothing to offer to the judge of all the earth. He's just approaching him and asking him, will you treat these people the same as the wicked? And God agrees. In verse 26 it says, "So the Lord said, if I find in Sodom 50 righteous within the city, then I will spare the entire place on their account." So he's kind of acknowledging here that, yeah, that's kind of the plan, is I'm going to destroy it if I don't find these 50. And we know that he doesn't find even close to that. And so Abraham continues to pray to him, still humbly approaching the Lord and asking him. And Abraham replied, "Now behold, I have ventured to speak to the Lord, although I am only dust and ashes. Suppose the 50 righteous are lacking 5. Will you destroy the entire city because of the 5? And he said, "I will not destroy it if I find 45 there." So he's continuing to ask by appealing to a lower number. So not only is he approaching him humbly, but he's approaching him aggressively. He already got his answer, but he's going to push for more. He's going to ask for more. He's going to further reveal his heart to the Lord that this is what he's hoping for. And he's doing it fairly aggressively, almost like in a, not bargaining as negotiation, but just kind of asking for more, going back and asking for more. The Lord approved his first request. Well, maybe I can ask for more. Hebrews 4:16 says, "Let us therefore come boldly to the throne of grace." We are able to access the Lord through the death of Jesus Christ for our sins. And he wants us to come boldly into that presence, to recognize what we have in his righteousness. So Abraham continues humbly and aggressively. In verse 29 he says, "And he spoke to him yet again and said, suppose 40 are found there." So he goes down another 5. And he said, "I will not do it on account of the 40. Then he said, "Oh, may the Lord not be angry, and I shall speak. Suppose 30 are found there." So now he's going by tens. And he said, "I will not do it if I find 30 there." So he continues to ask for more. He continues to approach him humbly, but aggressively, but also persistently. He's going back again and again and continuing to ask more of the Lord. He's persistent in approaching God for what is on his heart. And it reminds me of the parable of the persistent widow who kept going to the judge asking for justice. In Luke 18 it says, "And there was a widow in that town who kept coming to him," this is the unjust judge, "kept coming to him with the plea, 'Grant me justice against my adversary.'" Now, whenever we ask for something, we're going to call it justice, whether it is or not. And was it justice for her, what she wanted against her adversary? Well, in her mind, it certainly was. But even the unjust judge calls it justice. He says, "I will see that she gets justice." So they're both in agreement that this is a good thing she's asking for. He just didn't want to do it. But because of her persistence in this parable, it's granted. And Jesus says, will not God bring about justice for his chosen ones who cry out to him day and night? Will he keep putting them off?" So we are encouraged to approach God with persistence. So also, last Saturday, besides getting the Wilford Brimley meme, even though that should take the entirety of the day, I also had other plans. Our neighbors across the street invited us over for a little happy hour that afternoon. Now, he built the house in 1969. He's 83 years old, and we love him. She was actually the realtor who sold us our house, and so we love spending time with them. So he was born in 1939 in California and was adopted at 4 months old. And he suddenly decided, for whatever reason, at 78, he wanted to find out who his birth parents were. And so he started looking into it. In California law, he did all this research. He found out he had to file petitions to get permission to unseal these records. So he researches and figures out how to write this petition. He writes it. He mails it in. He's got to get a judge to sign it. So there's certain reasons that they would approve this, and the judge didn't approve it. So then he goes through the process again, learning more each time, trying to get more relationships, to learn more people, to go through these routes. So it's been 5 years he's been working on trying to get these records unsealed. That's persistence. Well, finally, he found out some lawyer who knew somebody that he knew and this and that, and he directly went to that judge, sent a letter to that specific judge to ask them to unseal his adoption records, and they signed it. And so he got his original birth certificate, and he found out what his birth name was and his birth parents, and through that he's found various relatives. He doesn't have any siblings, but he found some aunts and uncles and cousins, and he's been building relationships with them. And he got a call from one of his cousins, and he recorded it. And I was like, well, can you play that call for me? I want to hear the message. So I've got video of this. His cousin is Wilford Brimley. When he told us that, we were like, diabetes. He even said that. Skip even said that. He was like, yeah, my cousin's Wilford Brimley. You know Wilford Brimley, you know diabetes. And I was like, yeah, we've been talking about that all day. And I'm showing him all these memes that I have that we're sending each other back and forth. And I'm like, your cousin's Wilford Brimley. And he's like, diabetes. I was like, that's so crazy. But his persistence paid off of working on these legal means and routes and stuff to be able to persistently seek what he wanted. And God is patient. He can handle our persistence. He controls every molecule and atom in the universe. He can handle us going to him and sharing our heart. So he prays humbly, aggressively, persistently. And in verse 31 it says, and he said, now behold, I have ventured to speak to the Lord. Suppose 20 are found there. And he said, I will not destroy it on the count of the 20. Then he said, oh, may the Lord not be angry, and I shall speak this once. Suppose 10 are found there. And he said, I will not destroy it on the account of the 10. So we see him keep going. Now remember, he was just told before all this happened that they were finally going to have their son. They were finally he's 99. They're finally going to have this baby. But he's not asking God anything about that. He's just begging him to lower this number to save these cities. And so clearly, if this is on his heart and not his family and the fruition of the covenant with him, he's got to be passionate about this. So he's praying passionately for these people. Now, maybe he thought he got the number low enough. Maybe he thought there's got to be 10 people there, or I just can't go any lower than that. It's insulting that I would ask God for more. Or maybe, 4 chapters earlier, Sodom and Gomorrah got captured and taken out, and then Abraham saved them and brought them back and restored it. Maybe he's kind of invested emotionally in this town now. His nephew Lot and his family lives there, or maybe he met some other people and saw how these people live. Maybe he's got a heart for them now, and he just wants them to be able to be saved, to live. But whatever it is, he is passionate to continue to use this limited time face-to-face with God to ask for the security of this city, of maybe people he knows, maybe he doesn't know them. Now it ends right there where it says, I will not destroy it on the count of the 10. And the next verse says, as soon as he had finished speaking to Abraham, the Lord departed, and Abraham returned to his place. Now, I don't know how that exactly played out. I don't know if they talked some more and we just don't see it. It kind of reads like it could be God says, I won't save it. I won't destroy the city if there's 10, and just walks out with this wording as soon as he had finished speaking to Abraham. But whatever the reason, however it played out, he ends it there basically, and he walks away. And it doesn't say Abraham followed after him, pleading, don't destroy the city. It doesn't say that he went down to Sodom with him and said, I think this guy's righteous. You can save the city. He's done. He doesn't even stay to watch to see if God goes down and destroys the city. He goes home. He's going to go home and plan a baby shower with Sarah, and he trusts that God has it. I've got it down to 10. There's got to be 10 there, and God's going to do his thing. He's got it. And he can go home, hopefully in peace with that. So he prays yieldingly. He trusts God to take care of what God's going to take care of. So he has this model of prayer that I kind of, in a sense, was following in what I was doing. Felt like I was somewhat humble and aggressive and persistent and passionate, but I wasn't yielding when I was stressed about this course. And if you take the letters here, you have HAPPY. It spells happy. That's just to find a word. It just was convenient. I'm not going to say you're going to be happy if you pray this way, but maybe. Give it a shot. Let me know how it goes. So I could do the HAP, humble, aggressively, persistently, passionately. It's the yieldingly that I really struggle with. That's the one that I really wanted to be like Hannah. That why at the end, the why pray. I can pray the other ones, but I can't do the why pray, it seems like. I just have a real struggle with control, I guess. But it's not about the why, is it? It's about the who. It's about who we're praying to, because God is good and just, and God is gracious and patient and loving, and God is trustworthy. We can trust him. So if we know who we're praying to, that's much more important than anything, that we can trust that he will take care of me and everything else, because he is love. So we can do this why praying to him, because he is trustworthy. Now, I mentioned our car. We took the car to the shop, and we dropped the car off, and I have no doubt it's going to get fixed. Now, it might take longer than I want. It already has. It might cost more than I want. It might be more painful in that way, and I know it will be because I've already talked to him about the price. But it never crossed my mind that maybe we'll pay and they'll finish working and then we'll get it back and it's still not working. It's like, nope, lights don't work. Just drive it without lights now. Or, 3 wheels are good enough. It's like we take our car to the shop. We expect it within reason. I mean, didn't catch on fire. That they're going to fix it. It's going to be fine. I'm not worried about that at all. So why can I trust the car mechanic, a guy that went to school and has experience, he's trustworthy? I can trust him with my car, but I don't seem to be able to trust my soul mechanic, the guy that created me and the universe and knows everything. Why do I have such a struggle with just kind of letting him do his thing? He's told me he will do it. So I can trust the soul mechanic. Now, Drew is getting surgery tomorrow because he's got what's called a floating bone. It's like a ghost. No, that was a little Halloween joke right there. So he's got a floating bone. I've got an x-ray of it. Don't put it up yet. If you're squeamish, you've been warned. And I asked him if I could show this to people. He said yes. I didn't tell him I was going to do it here. Okay, so put up that. Is that bone? It's not attached to anything. It's floating around in there. I felt it last week. It was like turned this way. It was like poking out. It was like this big lump. So he's going to have surgery on that tomorrow. And I'm not going to be there, and I haven't had major somewhat surgery like this before. But I have been in the room for procedures and when other people have had surgery, and it typically goes kind of like this. So doctor walks in, oh, you're the surgeon, nice to meet you. Okay, so you're going to be, what's the plan? Okay, so you're going to cut my body open while I'm sleeping. I won't know what's going on. You're going to like move organs around and stuff and stitch this and bolt that, and then I'll just wake up. Yeah, okay, yeah, that sounds cool. And what was your name again? Yeah, all right, go after it. We just trust somebody who's had a little bit of experience that they're going to do it and that it's going to be okay. Like, we're just like, yeah, okay, that's cool. What do you want to get for lunch after this? It's like, we're just fine with this. I wouldn't be fine with it, but it seems like people do it almost every day. People go to the hospital and actually have things done. So you're just going to trust some person to come cut you open and start messing with your bones. Drew's not thinking, we'll see. Afterwards, the doctor was like, well, we got it out for you. Here's that bone. Don't use that shoulder anymore, but, okay. Give me a shot again next time. I am going to get it done right. It's like we trust these people with really not like knowing much about them or knowing them at all. And we're just like, oh, you're a doctor. Go ahead, do it. But we don't trust, or I don't trust the soul doctor. The God that created who I am. I just have such a struggle trusting, though he is trustworthy. And it takes practice. There's no shortcut. We have to go through these trials for me, to prove to me that he's trustworthy. Okay, he did it again. He came through again. Okay. Now, if it had been easy, I wouldn't have grown. It's like exercise. To have that growth, you have to have that pain. It's like working out at the gym. You need pain to have that growth, so I'm told. So one of the reasons I wanted to pray this way in this time was for that peace, to be able to give it to him, to yield my will to him, to trust that he is big enough, good enough, and in control to do things that would be best, even if it's different than what I want, to be able to trust him. And so he was answering my prayer and increasing my faith through the trial, which was the answer to my prayer to increase my faith, through the trial, which was the answer to my prayer. So going through these things, we get that practice. When I asked him, Lord, increase my faith, the right answer was, what do you think I'm doing? That's what I'm doing. I'm giving you a chance to practice this. This is on-the-job training. This is real life. And he got me through it. He did. I really don't know how the class went. I don't see the evaluations. Nobody's told me anything. But that's not my measurement for success of that experience. My measurement for success was, did I trust God? No, I didn't. But I might do a little bit better next time. And hopefully he'll continue to grow me, and I can share this experience with others, and others can share their experience with me, and we can grow all together. So hopefully he'll keep paying attention to me and answering these prayers. And I hope that through this that I can grow more into that why prayer, that why pray of trusting him, yielding my will to him, and letting him do his job. And I can trust him in that. So I look forward to growing in that way, and I hope that you'll keep me accountable as well.